know if your progesterone is low? I mean, obviously we can test to see if your progesterone is low, but sometimes people will say, aren't there signs and symptoms that I can look for? And the answer is yes. We are going to cover 5 categories, or like 5 related things in your body that will tell you that your progesterone is probably low. Now, before we get into that, I have to explain like how progesterone is made in the body. I'm also going to touch on things such as the birth control pill, is that progesterone, and the progestin IUD, and even if you can take progestin or progesterone with an IUD. So, how is it made first and foremost? You have a menstrual cycle. Your menstrual cycle starts with your period. That's day 1. So the day 1 of bleed, this is assuming you still have a period. Even if it's irregular, still listen. If you don't have a period, I'm still going to explain the signs and symptoms. Okay, we're all on the same ground. Day 1 is your period. Then your estrogen will start to rise. When it gets to a peak, that helps push out progesterone receptors in the body, specifically a lot in the uterus, because progesterone is the hormone of progestation. I'm not saying you want to get pregnant. I'm not saying that at all, but maybe you do. I don't know. I'm just explaining. So estrogen rises to a peak. It's like prepping the uterus. Let's go just in case. Then an LH surge happens. That's luteinizing hormone. That causes you to ovulate. Ovulation means you release the egg. So you have a follicle that looks like a bubble, and the bubble releases the egg. The bubble are a bunch of cells, and the cells turn into something called a corpus luteum. And the corpus luteum will then pump out progesterone. So you don't make progesterone unless you've ovulated. That's the multi-step process that has to happen. You don't make progesterone during your period. You don't make progesterone really before you ovulate. Not really. You make it, ideally huge amounts, after you ovulate. Okay, now that you understand that, how do you know signs and symptoms that your progesterone might be low? Now, progesterone is one of the first hormones that drops down when you're like late 30s into your 40s, when you're hitting that perimenopausal midlife time. Estrogen can go crazy. It can go up and down. It can stay relatively in rhythm, but really doesn't drop down till later. And testosterone depends on the woman. Some women lose their testosterone or it declines much earlier, like mid 30s into their late 30s, maybe their 40s. And other women don't really lose their testosterone until later in life. It does decline with age, but also maybe it doesn't decline at the same rate as your best friend or as your sister. So testosterone, I like to test testosterone and see what the signs and symptoms of that are. But that's not what we're talking about. Let's talk about progesterone. Number 1, period related. I just explained how progesterone's made. So what will happen if you're not making great levels of progesterone is that you may notice that your period is shorter or longer because you don't have the progesterone to maintain that phase called the luteal phase. You may notice your periods are heavier. You may notice breast tenderness. You may notice PMS. You may notice spotting before your period. So you get all these period-related symptoms. The period itself, the cycle itself can change. You may notice your actual days you bleed is longer. You may notice you used to bleed for 3 or 4 days and now you're bleeding for 7 days. That can indicate low progesterone. And when we think of progesterone, it's progesterone relative to the estrogen that's in your body. So if progesterone's dropping down, even if your estrogen's following the cycle and staying where it should be, depending on the day of your cycle, it's a relative imbalance. Estrogen's winning, so to speak, and progesterone's really low. So these can create all these symptoms. So if you're like, yeah, that's me, my period's shorter or longer, I don't think I ovulate. Really, I don't feel it. I used to feel it. I used to notice mucus changes, or I used to test myself and I'm not having those feelings anymore, or I don't test positive anymore for ovulation. If your breasts are getting tender, if you're having PMS, premenstrual cycle, or premenstrual syndrome, if you're having heavier periods, that's like number 1, period related. Number 2, sleep and calm and anxiety related. So when progesterone turns into a metabolite called allo, not like the stuff you put on your skin after a sunburn, but ALLO, it stands for allopregnanolone, that will cross the blood-brain barrier and can bind to activate your GABA receptors. GABA is your calming inhibitory receptor in your body. So when GABA is activated, women tend to feel calmer. They tend to be less anxious, And as a result, they tend to sleep better because of their progesterone. Now, progesterone is not the only reason that you may have insomnia or wake up at 3 a.m., but it might be a contributing factor. So if you say to me, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm having the cycle stuff and I'm having the like sleep, calm, anxiety stuff, like check, we could be looking at low progesterone levels. Number 3 is fertility related. Now, you may not be looking to become pregnant. However, if you are looking to become pregnant or you struggled to get pregnant when you were younger, progesterone could be a reason. Progesterone, again, is progestation. It's your progestation hormone. It helps with the uterus for implantation. And we know if progesterone drops too soon, early in a pregnancy, it could potentially cause loss. Because what will happen is those cells I mentioned, when the bubble pops and you ovulate, those cells become the corpus luteum. They pump out progesterone, and they pump it out until the placenta is strong enough to take over around-ish week 10, maybe weeks 8 to 10, depending on the person. And so if the like leftover cells in the bubble aren't able to pump out progesterone, that corpus luteum can't do it, and then it drops down and the placenta is not strong enough yet, it's too early, it could be one reason for loss. So if you have a history of loss, maybe you didn't even know, maybe nobody checked your progesterone, or they didn't check it until you'd had, unfortunately, a couple of losses, it could potentially be to a decline in estrogen. So if you were actively trying to get pregnant right now, which is very common for women in their late 30s and 40s, or you're listening to this thinking, no, that was me, I had a history of loss, or I was told I had to go on progesterone. So I went on progesterone when I was pregnant, or had to get, suppositories or injections or something. I had to do something progesterone wise to help when I was pregnant. Then that probably carried forward or can show up again when you're going through perimenopause and having low progesterone. So I want to bring up like that part of history. That leads me to number 4, which are histamine-related symptoms. So progesterone can be very stabilizing to the cell that releases histamine. That cell is known as a mast cell. And mast cells contain a whole lot of things, not just histamine, but we talk a lot about histamine. We think of histamine more with like allergies, or, you had a glass of wine and it makes your face red or your nose red, or you get kind of like a scratchy throat or sniffy on a glass of red wine, or a beer or something like that. That's histamine. You notice, though, that maybe at certain parts of your cycle, you're worse than others. Now, estrogen does play a role here as well. Estrogen destabilizes the mast cell. It also reduces the enzyme that degrades histamine in your GI tract. So his estrogen, when it's high, is like a double whammy against you if histamine is a problem for you. Whereas progesterone is like, no, let me stabilize the cell. Let me keep that cell intact so that if you come across pollen, you have wine, that maybe it will keep it from blowing apart and releasing all of its histamine. So if you're already experiencing histamine type symptoms, maybe you've got itchy skin, maybe it's seasonal allergies, maybe you're sniffy and drippy all the time, maybe you've got rashes, maybe you just know when you eat certain foods, like you feel like very allergic, not anaphylactic, but I mean like almost spring allergy, like you're like coughing, or you're blowing your nose, your face is red, your skin is itchy. Histamine can also cause other symptoms like brain fog. It can cause headaches. Like it can worsen anxiety. It can cause heart racing. Histamine can play a role actually through the whole body. If you notice in certain parts of your cycle, your histamine symptoms are worse, like let's say the days leading up to your period, you're like, whoa, I am super itchy, I'm super stuffy, I get headaches, my anxiety's worse, my heart races. It's very cycle trackable. It's definitely possible that a drop in progesterone is contributing to this. Now, number 5, I'm going to call back out, which is the heavy periods or things that grow. Now, this could be the inside of the uterus. This is why women who have their uterus and are on estrogen have to be on progesterone, because we don't want the inside of the uterus to grow, or what we call hypertrophy. It gets thicker, because in a worst case scenario, that can progress into full-blown endometrial cancer, which is absolutely what we don't want. I don't want your fibroids to grow. I don't want your endometriosis to grow. I don't want you to have water retention and then you feel like your breast tissue is grown, like it's gone up a bra size. It feels swollen, or even just you're on estrogen and you've noticed it's not even water retention. Like your breast size has definitely gotten bigger. So number 5 is things are growing that you don't really want growing. You don't want the inside of your uterus thicker. You don't want your fibroids to grow. You don't want that endometriosis worse. And you definitely don't want to go up a bra size. Well, I mean, maybe you want to go up a bra size. I guess it depends on the size you start with, but you know what I mean. So again, it's that relative imbalance between progesterone and estrogen. And this isn't perfect. I'm not saying progesterone is the only thing that has to do with endometriosis. It's not the only thing that has to do with fibroids, of course, or breast tissue for that matter. But it could be, and some of you, one contributing factor. So if the estrogen progesterone, let's say relative ratio is off, even if you have normal expected levels of estrogen for that part of your cycle, but your progesterone is 0, you aren't really making any anymore, or the levels just aren't that great. Again, you can see that it's just this imbalance. Estrogen's looking around like, where's my buddy? Where's progesterone to help counterbalance me? And as a result, because estrogen like thickens things and grows things, which in a lot of cases is great. I want my collagen thick so my skin is good. I want my hair to be good and lush. Estrogen does that. Estrogen like helps with the menstrual cycle. It helps make the inside of the uterus fluffy so that if I don't get implantation, because I'm not looking to get pregnant, then that's what bleeds off. That's the tissue that bleeds out. Estrogen helped create that. So it's like controlled growth is fine. What I don't want is if I have a fibroid or if I have endometriosis or if I go up a bra size or 2, like I don't want that. So that's where I'm like, ooh, progesterone, too low of progesterone might play a role in this. So if it's period related, if it's anxiety, calm, sleep related, if it's fertility related or a history, you have a history of fertility related challenges, or if it's histamine related, or if it's a grow related thing, not all growth is bad. I'm just saying you don't want things to grow, then low progesterone may be at the cornerstone here. Now, I mentioned earlier I was going to talk about the birth control pill and the progestin IUD. Is that the same thing as progesterone, like the progesterone in your body? And it's not. In the birth control pill and on the progestin IUD is a synthetic or like fake, chemically fake type of progesterone. We call it a progestin. Now, they can bind to progesterone receptors. This is why they can work in the ways that they do, but you may not get an improvement in some of these 5 things related to low progesterone. Let me give you an example. Let's say you have the progestin IUD and you love it because your periods are next to nothing. You used to have heavy periods, nothing, like your birth control part is covered. You're not going to get pregnant. That's not a goal of yours, but you're not calm. And you're experiencing a lot of histamine things. So the progestin IUD doesn't necessarily improve histamine, sleep, or calm. Even though it can bind to the progesterone receptors, it's not crossing up into the brain and hitting the GABA receptor and causing calm. And it's not necessarily stabilizing the mast cells, which means they can release and create histamine. So this is why some women with the progestin IUD will ask me like, I have the IUD. I love it. I don't like my periods aren't heavy because that's bonus side effect of the progestin IUD being local there in the uterus. It makes periods not heavy. Or you like it for the birth control aspect, set it and forget it. But you're like, can I still take progesterone? And the answer is yes. No, I'm a doctor, not your doctor. You always have to talk to your healthcare practitioner, but you can take outside progesterone if you have a progestin IUD. Now let's talk about the birth control pill. If you're on the birth control pill, which is not uncommon in perimenopause, it's not uncommon to be used for both birth control purposes. If you are in your 30s and 40s and don't want to get pregnant, but you're not menopausal yet, how does that play a role in the body? The birth control pill being completely synthetic will suppress your ovulation. So the bubble that would release doesn't even form, and it doesn't form at all. And it will take over. So the synthetic estrogen and the synthetic progesterone will take over and sort of suppress everything. So you may also notice I have women who are on the birth control pill and they will say, but I'm like now I'm noticing I'm more anxious. I notice I'm not as calm as I used to be. Now they've been on the birth control pill, so they know their own progesterone has been suppressed and maybe even suppressed for a long while. But as you get older and other hormones play a role, other stressors in life, things like cortisol and oxytocin and serotonin and dopamine and thyroid, they all can get involved. They can be impacted by the birth control pill and they lead to not feeling calm, not sleeping, etc. Even I don't see like even histamine, a lot of birth control pills, because they're pretty depending on the pill, like pretty steady state. I don't see the birth control pill create a lot of histamine imbalance. But I do just see as women get older, they're less, I'm going to use the word stable only because when you were, younger, you would age on your side, right? You'd youth on your side, and you had all these hormones on track. And now you're going into perimenopause. Even with the birth control pill, I have women that are like, I'm on the pill, which should be covering everything, but I still feel, and I'm having a lot of these perimenopausal symptoms that I read about online. I'm like, yeah, the pill is only like one aspect, like a lot of your hormones are still shifting. You're still getting older. You're not 35 anymore. You're 45 or whatever. And so that can actually happen. So then I get asked, can I take progesterone if I'm on the birth control pill? And the short answer is you can, but we don't generally do it. So if you're on the pill, let's say for birth control reasons, and you're like, can I take progesterone for sleep? You can. Taking progesterone isn't going to mess up the birth control pill's action. It's not going to stop the birth control aspect of it. Only if you stop the birth control or like skip a pill or two, that could increase the risk for getting pregnant. So be aware of that. But adding in progesterone is not going to. Usually though, we go a different route because you're already on hormones. Even though they're synthetic, you're already on them. So I'm like, oh, if you're still not sleeping, let's look at these other players. Let's look at your thyroid. Let's look at your cortisol. Let's look at your oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine. Let's use other calming, supportive herbs and minerals and nutrients to see if we can reduce your anxiety. Let's try to get to that root cause instead because you're on the birth control pill. So I hope this is helpful because I know progesterone, can be really confusing. And when it comes to hormones can be confusing in general. But understanding these 5 categories of how progesterone can play a role in the body and can show up for you may help you with your checklist of like, wait a minute, I'm having a lot of those signs and symptoms that she just mentioned. I'm going to go talk to my healthcare practitioner about potentially adding in progesterone. Now, there are a lot of options for progesterone. I do have other conversations, other podcasts and YouTube videos on progesterone, the different types of progesterone, testing progesterone, because it's that important to me. And I know it's that important to you. We have oral progesterone, we have topical progesterone, we have vaginal progesterone. I even have information out there on progesterone versus herbs like chaste tree or oils like evening primrose oil. I get these questions all the time as well. And I want you to be very informed. So I know hormones are confusing. I'm trying to make it as easy to understand as possible so that you feel very empowered and very educated and can go talk to your healthcare provider and get the answers that you need.